I'd like to call to order the Peabody Planning Board meeting, an agenda for January 19, 2023 at 7 p.m. held at the Peabody City Hall, Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. This meeting will be broadcast in public access TV. At this time, I'd like to suspend this meeting and resume the recessed public hearing for proposed zoning amendment ordered by the City Council, City of Peabody, zoning amendment ordinance of the City of Peabody zoning 2011 as amended and hereby further amended. Representative?
Good evening, members of the Planning Board, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kurt Bellavance. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development for the City of Peabody. I was before the board a few weeks ago discussing the mill overlay, which I'm sure you're all familiar with now. And there were some changes. There were some discrepancies in regards to the language, so we wanted to make sure that that was clear before we had proceeded in regards to that meeting the other night. We identified the changes that were in the zoning, and we resubmitted the actual correct language that we're looking to modify or amend. So that is before the planning board this evening. Just as a brief overview, we're looking to expand the mill overlay district. Currently, it covers two lots off of Pulaski Street. We're looking to add additional lots to that, approximately 3 lots. One of the lots is a condominium association, so it looks like there's more lots than there is. So we're looking to expand that, and as we were doing that, we were modifying the language to make that more reflective of what we want to see in that area. As I had stated before, we took baby steps, as I would say, to add the mill overlay. That was working out well. We expanded that a few months ago, and now we're looking to expand it once again. So I'm here. I can go over the changes in the ordinance, and I'll let you know what those are. So if you look under section 6.15.3.1, that's title is the following uses shall be permitted by right in the MOD. So that first line, A, it was saying existing mixed uses. The change is going to say mixed uses that are currently lawfully existing. So we want to be clear that any existing lawful uses would be allowed, but anything that was unlawful would not be allowed to continue. The next change in that was under D, and I'm not sure if the previous version you had a D, but it was as allowed by right was restaurant, cafe, or other establishment serving food and or beverage up to 3,000 square feet. So the size was what we were looking to have a little bit more control over on that in regards to that. So under the next section, which is 6.15.3.2, those uses are identified as special permit uses that would be permitted in the MOD. So the change, which I believe was not on your list before, was putting in the restaurant, cafe, or other establishments serving food and or beverages over 3,000 square feet. So we wanted to have any large facilities or retail activities. We wanted to allow that via a special permit and not by right. So we wanted to separate those two uses basically by size. And then the last one that we were adding was F, any new structures exceeding 4,500 square feet. So any new buildings that in that size or above would require a special permit. So those were the changes that were reflected in the amended version, which I'm not sure if you had that correct version or not, but that's the one that's being sent forward to the City Council, and that's why I'm back here again before the Planning Board to answer any questions in regards to those or the Mill Overlay District in whole. Thank you.
Any questions from board? Dr. Otto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Kurt. The use chart is now very, very clear, and I appreciate it. I had a question, actually, about the role of the building commissioner in reviewing and approving site plans, which is in section 6.15.4. Is there a possible conflict there with the planning board's jurisdiction under section 12.1 of the zoning ordinance?
I don't believe it is. I don't know the exact criteria for site plan coming before the planning board. I don't know that offhand. We identified this as specifically to the mill overlay and anybody applying for any of those uses in that mill overlay. In fact, we actually, there was a parking and lighting and landscape plan that was recently approved. So what we did was we went through the similar process. We held construction review. We invited all the internal departments to review that plan. We had comments. We had them incorporate those comments that we had in regards to the plan. I reviewed that final plan that was submitted and had submitted that off to the building inspector, who then again reviewed that in compliance. So it's a very similar process. It just wouldn't come back to the planning board in regards to that.
So would the triggers in section 12.1 still exist, or does the MOD supersede them, I guess is really my question.
The MOD would supersede that. If they were looking for a use that was within the underlying zoning, then the site plan process would still apply. It's just for the uses through the mill overlay.
Okay. My recommendation would be to add something in section 12.1 that makes it clear that the building inspector has jurisdiction for those kinds of things, and the planning board's jurisdiction would not apply here. Because otherwise, I think you really have a situation where the ordinance is internally inconsistent.
There is a section 6.15.2 that talks about the applicability in relationship to the underlying zoning.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily refer to that, but that's something that we could certainly try to make more clear.
Thank you. And my only other thing is not a question but a comment. I remain uncomfortable with the provision of section 6.15.7, where the ZBA has the ability to waive dimensional requirements in the MOD in consideration for the applicant's support of public projects. I don't think that's what the Mass Legislature intended as the criteria for granting variances or waivers from dimensional standards. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Speak. Sorry. I thought.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have law offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Mass. And I'm appearing on behalf of Pulaski Acquisition, LLC. I appeared before the board a couple of months ago, at which time I asked that the zoning ordinance of the city of Peabody be amended so as to provide for theater and public space, and that theater and public space be allowed in the IL zoning district, which we are in today at this property on Pulaski Street. And I further asked, the board had recommended that we define theater and public hall, and we did so. I think there was a reservation on the definition of public hall so that it be tightened up so as not to include allowance of any kind of adult entertainment. And I'm certainly willing to perfect our language that was previously submitted. So I'm here this evening because when I left the planning board a couple of months ago and then headed to the city council was of a mind that rather than change the entire IL zone, they would instead prefer to see us add, well, would I consider adding my uses rather than to the IL zoning district, that we amend this evening's proposition by adding my client's property, which is map 53, lot 82. It's the largest square footage building in terms of on two floors in the park, and it is, as I said, map 5382, and then I would ask that we allow theater and public space as part of the mill overlay district by special permit. Since it seemed here we wanted special permit, and I think that the council might aim us in that direction. However, one of the reasons that when my zone change was first being considered, one of the reasons that we were pointed towards by special permit was there are many more industrial areas in the city than just this one. This, however, if we approach it as adding this parcel and those uses in the mill overlay district, it would not impact any of the other IL zoning districts. So I'm looking for the recommendation of the planning board as to whether it be by special permit or a by right use. But my request simply is to add my client's parcel and those uses to what you're considering this evening. And my client would be in favor, either way, he's in favor of the zone change. Thank you.
Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, there is somebody online. Brian, would you like to speak in favor or against? You can raise your hand function if you would like to.
Just a question from the chair. Would you be willing to accept the request from the attorney to add that provision for that one building in the overlay district?
Not at this time. Right now, as I explained at the last meeting, we view the mill overlay as sort of a transitional zone between heavy industrial uses and residential neighborhood. So what we're looking to do is, when we expanded that, it's all along Pulaski Street. These buildings are further back in regards to the industrial area. So right now we're not looking at doing that, but that's not to say in the future we would consider expanding the mill overlay towards the back. But at this time we're not prepared to do that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Through the chair. Kurt, if you don't mind. You just, I'm sorry, I don't know if I didn't hear it all or I still have questions, but without the mill overlay, what type of projects would come before this board for site plan review, and which of those projects now will no longer require our site plan? I'm just thinking of a 4,000 square foot, freestanding restaurant cafe with a special permit drive-through. They don't have to come here for traffic studies and everything else that we would normally review.
Right. So, part of the mill overlay is really to work with existing structures. We did want to allow, which there wouldn't be any site plan review unless they changed the parking in regards to that. We haven't seen any major parking adjustments in regards to that. So, but we did have the new building in regards to any new structure that would be 4,500 square feet or larger would then follow through those procedures. So
would we normally not review a building 4,500 square feet?
Yes, you would. Yes.
And under?
I believe it's 1,000 square feet. I don't recall what it was, so yeah.
So a building between 1,000 square feet and 4,500 square feet, we would currently come before this board for a site plan review to, again, investigate the fit in the neighborhood, the traffic, the impact, all that stuff, and then now we won't.
The planning board would review anything over 1,000 square feet,
Still.
regardless of the size. So if the minimum, or the baseline is 1,000 square feet and larger.
And that doesn't change.
That does not, I believe that does not change. I'm just going to look at the notes here to verify.
And further, Kurt, we
Yes.
are overlaying a property that is completely undeveloped at the moment, so we're anticipating, I think, is it 60 Pulaski? Anticipating.
Correct.
Hoping that, urging someone to make a proposal, so we're definitely gonna have a new structure as part of this.
Correct. So the full, anything over 4,500 square feet would still come before the planning board in regards to that. The existing site plan relates to the parking, landscaping, facades, and sign. So it's not, it doesn't cover the traffic, it doesn't cover if there's any curb cuts. So there's additional requirements that would be required through the site plan process. So that would be basically anything in addition to that would, yes, come before the planning board through site plan process.
So our purview doesn't change for projects between 1,000 and 4,500 square feet.
Correct.
Okay.
This section is really based on existing, so anytime they want to come in and modify anything in regards to a, like for example, they have the building at, I think, 58 Pulaski, which they'll go and modify, that would come before our office and review that. Any new structure then would follow the same similar site plan process.
So an existing building that got a drive-through added would not come before us?
Correct.
Would it normally? Would it normally?
It would depend on whether they change, I think, parking, whatever the criteria is, but I don't think normally it would come
So
before you.
56 Pulaski, the end cap decides it wants to be a cafe with a drive-through, seeks a special permit from the city. Now they need parking for a restaurant and also the drive-through and the in and the out and all that stuff. Wouldn't come here.
The drive-through's not allowed, so.
No, but it's allowed by special permit now.
It is, no, the drive-through,
Special permit, Part D, right? Any drive-through facility?
correct, sorry, I apologize. Yeah, so that would not need to come before the planning board.
Would it normally? I'm just trying to figure out what power we're losing here.
No, it would not.
Okay.
Unless they modified, I believe, the parking.
Okay.
Any other questions before the board? Any other? At this time, I'd accept a recommendation to the city council.
Just before you can, a recommendation is made, I would just recommend that the board, you can be as specific as you want with this recommendation, and you can be as vague as you want. But if you have concerns like Dr. Otto has brought up and/or Mr. Zanzali has brought up, the board can discuss if those want to be added in there or not.
Anyone want to make a recommendation to the city council in adding in any concerns of the planning board?
Do we have to close the public hearing and then make the recommendation, or no? Not how we do it? I don't know, just asking.
I'll close the public hearing after we make a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board recommend to the City Council that it adopt the amendment to Section 6.1.5 Mill Overlay District by replacing the existing Section 6.1.5 with the 6.1.5, which has been advertised and is the subject of this public hearing, as written.
Second.
Attorney Diane Cooper. Mr. Joseph Gagnon.
Yes.
Dr. Judith Otto.
No.
Attorney Arvanites.
Yes.
Mr. Simos.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Is Mr. Dennis Feld online? Would she like me to ask her?
Hi, Diane. We're voting currently on the Mill Overlay District. Are you in favor or against?
Favor. I apologize. I got disconnected.
That's okay. Thank you. Mr. Dennis Feld is not on. Attorney Mark Perlman
Yes.
and Mr. Betancourt.
Yes.
7.
Motion carries. At this time, to end the public hearing for proposed zoning amendment. We'll return to the planning board meeting. First order of business of the planning board meeting is the January 5th minutes. I have a motion to accept.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of the meeting of January 5th, 2023.
Second.
Stereo. Aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is site building permit plans for 190R Newbury Street, map 35, lot 038A.
John Kelty, 40 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. For the applicant, and I'm respectfully requesting that this matter be continued. We have submitted portions of a revised plan to Public Services. They've responded somewhat favorably as to the direction we're going, and we needed more time to modify the stormwater management plan and drainage, and as such, I would ask that this matter be continued until the February meeting. Is that 2?
February 2nd.
My conservation meeting is going to be after your meeting of the 2nd, so I'll go to the 16th.
Take a motion from the board to allow.
I make a motion that we allow the extension of time to February 16th.
Could I point out, if we have a snow day, we're in trouble. That's why they usually go a few days after, so we can regroup.
So that'd be Thursday, 16, 17, what is it, 20?
23rd.
Well, you want the full week?
Yep.
Sure.
20. So amend that to go to February 23rd.
Second.
I have a related question to this, if I could, through the chair. Is this going to open up all the peer reviews again to start from scratch, is, in your opinion, Mr. Kelty?
No, what has occurred was we thought that we were in a direction in which we were going to add fill to that area of land, and we have a sewer out there, and of course PMLP utilities, but the sewer in particular is some 22 to 25 feet below ground as we speak today. We were going to add some fill on top of that, and at one time we were adding as much as 10 or 12 feet. Our redesign from Kevin Fleming to Hayes went down to some 8 to 10 feet. Now we went to the, we completely designed that, and now we're asked again to get lower still. So we're very, very close to the existing grade, and so we've had to modify everything in reliance on that. So no, I don't believe it'll take us to the beginning of this review, but instead will allow the Department of Public Services to be able to say, we're happy with that.
Thank you.
Attorney Kelty. Next item on the agenda is 55 Pulaski Street, map 53, lot 029.
Once again, John Kelty, 40 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, appearing on behalf of the owners of 55 Pulaski, Dennis Giannis, trustee. We have come almost to the end of our peer review process, and the plan that we have been examining and the plan that has been under the consideration of the planning board is to utilize the existing Roadhouse Cafe, convert it to 4 units of condominium. The problem that presents is not just economic as to cost of conversion, but is also how do we design, and how does the various city departments and their peer reviewers, how do they measure our impact on the neighborhood and on our existing utilities and infrastructure. And so the question that has arisen is a technical one of water usage, availability of water. We are satisfied there is water available to the site, but the water usage has been very difficult to measure because we have a fully sprinkled building, and although we don't know the size of, we do know the size of the lines in the building as it is currently sprinkled. However, we're not terribly, we don't have a structural, we don't have an architectural plan for the structure itself. So as such, there'll be lots of unknowns that'll be forthcoming, utilizing that building as it stands. And so, there will also be difficulty in completing the peer review because we can't, right now, without a full design of the renovation of the building, we're not sure how much water we're going to use for the 4 condominiums and how we would retrofit the sprinkler system. So we've decided instead to demolish the building, and in its place we are adding 3 duplexes. And Mr. Mello has got a plan that, at least for purposes of any discussion or going forward, Mr. Mello has a plan that shows the location of the 3 units replacing the existing building. Where the existing building had 4 units in it, we're now proposing 3 duplexes in that corner. That will increase slightly our traffic by 2 units, and it will increase our water consumption. But we do know that we can easily measure how much consumption it will take for these units, and we will resubmit not only this plan, but then all the calculations that are inherent. And kind of to go to Roy's question of the last segment of this evening's meeting, it will require us to go back, take a step back, at least as to traffic, so that we can show the impact of further cars, and we'll also supply new stormwater calcs and new water usage calcs. But I think they're relatively easily reviewed in a timely fashion. So I'm going to ask that this matter be continued to 2/16 or March 1st meeting. Yeah. So 2/16.
This time I'll accept a motion to allow.
I would like to make a motion to allow the applicant to extend this permit to February 23rd.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just Attorney Kelty and Mr. Mello, I just asked that we be provided a digital copy with the full set of the plans, and then I'll need full-size plans for the planning board. We will need 8 plans. Matt, do you want a full set? Nope. So we'll need 8 full-size plans. Shall I wait till Mr. Lang is done? Planning board, and then, well, you're submitting something new, so I would say a recap of that for the planning board. These new plans are going to be submitted to Department of Public Services. They're going to have to be reviewed rather than print out a copious amount of plans that just could be end up changed by the time they get submitted again to the planning board. They'll submit digital copies for the board to review and for DPW to review, and then a final set will be provided to the board showing the review.
I have a question through the chair to, not sure if it would go to Attorney Kelty or if it would go to the Chris Mello. Isn't there some sort of an easement running through this property, whether it may be a sewer, water, and or electric, that kind of runs through here that feeds a house that's like on the back of Gallant or something? Okay, thank you. So there's no sewers traversing.
Mr. Simos, there is a drain easement that shows actually on this plan on the adjacent properties on Westview and Gallant, running on our easterly boundary. On the adjacent properties is a 30-foot drain easement. It comes down from Abington Ave and goes into the resource area and then into the pipe that goes under Pulaski Street.
Not on this property, but it's adjacent to it.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is appointments. See none. Subdivision board action, none. Any questions relating to the correspondence from Robert J. Langley or water system peer review for Weston and Sampson? regional notices? Hearing none. Other matters properly before the board?
Mr. Chairman, in your packets tonight, just wanted to make the board aware, we received a special permit approval from the city council from a recent application for the car wash facility that is in the downtown. They were approved for 10 new car vacuums on site, so that was handed into the planning board today. So we just put that in the packets from the city council, if the planning board wanted to review or not. I don't believe there's any need for you to accept it or not as well. And then in regards to other matters probably before the board and looking at current fees, I'm currently in the middle of drafting up a whole document, worksheets for the discussion of the review of these fees as well as planning board procedures in regards to site plan review as well as subdivision review. So I hope to bring that before the board in the February meetings.
Any other matters before the board? This time I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Again, thank you, board.